Good morning YouTube. It's Monday morning, it's 7 a.m. and it's time to get on with the day. Hey everyone, well it's Monday morning, it's just after 9 and it feels like I've done a full day's work already. So if you recall back on Saturday, I needed to reconfigure the network in the house. Well, it turns out that this thing that I bought is an absolute pup. It doesn't work. I spent most of the weekend wrestling with it and wondering why the Wi-Fi kept dropping. And ultimately at 7:30 this morning, I took the whole thing out, replaced it with the old network, and the old network works. Now here's the strange thing. This little box you see back here is an older version of this from the same company. This has been running for years in my office with no problems whatsoever. And I falsely made the assumption that the newer, greater, improved version of the product would actually be just as good or better. What a mistake that was. So after wrestling with it for nearly 2 days and going online and sort of researching what other problems people were having, found out that everyone was having the same problems I was. The product doesn't seem to be fit for purpose and we'll be going back to the store later today. But anyway, enough of that. Today, got a lot to do, got some video to edit, a lot of meetings to attend, and by 4 o'clock I've got to go pick the wife up from the airport, so we better get on with things. So it's that time of the year where everyone sends out Christmas cards, and most of the time I'm not really a great fan of Christmas cards. Christmas cards tend to be written because sometimes people feel an obligation to send one because they've received one, and they're taking up paper and resources that just end up getting thrown in the bin in a few weeks' time. However, the one thing I do really like is when I receive Christmas cards from Japan. So we have some partners in Japan that we work with, and Japanese Christmas cards are always the most exquisite cards. They're not really festive because, you know, it's Mount Fuji and they don't really celebrate Christmas in the traditional sense, but they are beautifully made, really nice to receive. So thank you to our friends at Media Plus and also to our friends at Chorus Call who sent me a Japanese calendar where each month of 2017 is a different dog. Kondo-san obviously knows me so well, so there's a different dog on a sort of background, a drawing of a dog on different backgrounds of what look like Japanese food delicacies. So thank you very much to our Japanese friends for those, much appreciated. In early February 2017, I'll be attending a large trade show and conference in Amsterdam called ISE, Integrated Systems Europe. And I've been asked to give 3 presentations during the event on subjects that I haven't really decided yet, but I've been given the general theme by the presenters and also by our marketing department. So it's now early December, so we have about 2 months to build these presentations and get very sort of fluent in presenting them. So I'm going to kick off the beginning of that process today. So you might be sitting there thinking, well, you've got 2 months, why start them now? Quite often when I go to these events, I see presenters editing their slides literally right up to the last minute. Before they walk up on the stage, they're making changes, they're adding slides, they're taking slides out. And this last minute change to the material usually means they end up giving a substandard performance on the stage. And generally I find that this is something that's common with a lot of presenters, is that they leave things to the last minute. They are told months in advance that they're going to be coming to a conference to present, yet they kind of relax and kick back and say, oh, there's plenty of time, we don't need to do anything. Then as time goes on and it gets closer towards the event, it's, no, I'll get to it. And then right at the last minute, there's the utter panic and crying and pulling out of hair and generally just trying to get things done. And this runs right up until literally seconds before they step on the stage. The one thing that comes from this is poor delivery of presentations. The majority of the presenters on stage don't know the material because they're editing it right at the last minute. They haven't had a chance to rehearse. They haven't had a chance to see if the material actually makes sense. And it leads to poor performances. So this is why I like to kick off the thought process at least many months in advance before a presentation, and over the next sort of 60 days I'll start to translate that from where I am now into a slide deck that I've had time to rehearse and practice, take feedback from my colleagues, so that when I walk up onto the stage I can be very crisp in my delivery and make sure that it's the one presentation that all the audiences remember from that particular day. Before we get into the planning process, I want to give you a little mantra or ditty that I picked up in my days in the army, and it's called the 7 P's, and it stands for prior planning and preparation prevents a piss poor performance. And if you take that to heart, you'll realize that no matter what you do, even if you get up on the stage every single day of the week and you present to thousands of people, you will become complacent without making sure that you do all of your prior planning and preparation first. You make sure that your slide deck is exactly the message that you want to deliver. You make sure that the messages that you're delivering to your audience are the ones that you really want them to take home. And if you don't do this, if you don't do the legwork at the beginning to make sure that the presentation is exactly on message and you are well rehearsed, you will end up delivering a piss poor performance. And unfortunately, that's how an awful lot of people in business present. The quality of presentation is just going down and down and down because everybody thinks they can do it, everybody thinks that it's easy, and everybody is totally and utterly mistaken. I want to talk about planning and planning the story that you're going to tell. So why is storytelling important? Well, human beings have been telling stories for thousands of years. Our entire history is nothing but a collection of stories. It's been handed down from one person to another. There's the old saying that the winners always write the history. Well, history is just a collection of stories from different people's point of views. But a presentation needs to follow the same format. The most engaging presenters in the world, and if you would like to see some of them, I suggest you head on over to the TED Talks channel on YouTube. You'll find some of the most engaging presenters in the world. And the one common thing amongst them all is they're all very good storytellers. They all lead you down a path, just like a storybook does. So, for the presentations that I'm going to be building, I need to start thinking about what is the story that I want to tell? How do I want to engage my audience? So in every good story, there's a hero and there's a villain. Now, I would imagine in most people's presentations, you or your company or the position that you're trying to defend will be the hero of the story, and your competitors will be the villains. It's really that simple, but you've got to start thinking of them in that mindset, because every good story has a hero and it has a villain. We then need to come up with a situation that we put the hero in so that he can defeat the villain. So if you start thinking about it in these terms, maybe it's a product pitch that you're giving and you want to show how your product is better than the competition's. Well, position them as the hero and the villain and show how the hero can conquer the villain. We then need to show how the villain is vanquished. So maybe this is where, if you're going to give a demonstration of why your product is better than the competition, this is where you bring it in and you sort of show the death blow where the hero kills the villain in the story. And with all good stories, we finish up with a happy ever after moment. And the happy ever after moment in the commercial presentation terms is really the take home. What do you want people to go away with? What do you want them to remember about the story that you've told them? So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to start to craft the story that I'm going to tell to the audience in February.